If you haven't made AI central to your language learning, you are missing the biggest revolution in years. I've tried countless apps and rarely been impressed, but after experimenting with AI myself, I'm convinced that ignoring it is a serious mistake. I've been using it to improve my Spanish, and you can use it to improve faster too. So in this video, I'm going to put two powerful AIs head to head so you can clearly see which one is the smartest investment for your language skills. Let the battle begin. So time to introduce our two contestants. In the red corner, we have the reigning champion, a household name that you probably already know. It's ChatGPT. It's not specifically built for language learning, but it's so powerful that it can significantly boost your language skills. And it has been updated since my last video. ChatGPT says it speaks 20 to 30 languages fluently and a few more less fluently. And the challenger, in the blue corner, we have Langua. It's built on ChatGPT technology, but specifically tailored for language learners with a completely different setup. It supports 24 different languages. Here is the full list on screen. If you are interested, there are links for both in the description. So let's find out who comes out on top. So ChatGPT's voice features were always impressive, but there was one big catch. Its Spanish sounded distinctively American, something which many learners found distracting. Now things are very different. So without further ado, here's how ChatGPT's Spanish sounds after its update, and then we'll compare it directly with Langua.
Vale, pues vamos a hablar como si fuéramos viejos amigos, ¿eh?
Me parece genial. Así la conversación fluye de manera más natural y cómoda. Cuéntame, ¿qué has estado haciendo últimamente?
Pues nada, estoy tomando un café, me siento muy tranquilo. ¿Qué estás haciendo?
Yo también estoy aquí con mi bebida, disfrutando de la charla. La verdad es que no hay nada como una buena conversación entre amigos para relajarse un rato.
As you can clearly hear, its accent has improved dramatically. The natural pauses, the changes in tone just make it sound impressively human. But how does Langua measure up?
Hola, ¿qué tal estás? ¿De qué te apetece hablar hoy?
Pues, Cristian, quiero charlar contigo y, no sé, ahora mismo estoy disfrutando un café y tengo un par de minutos para practicar mi español y pensé sería una buena idea de charlar contigo. ¿Qué te parece?
Me parece genial, la verdad. Un café siempre es buen momento para una charla relajada. Yo también estoy bastante tranquilo ahora mismo, así que perfecto. Pues nada del otro mundo, estoy aquí tranquilo pensando en algunas cosas. Ha sido un día bastante normal. Me gustan estos momentos más pausados del día, cuando puedes parar un poco y simplemente charlar sin prisa.
So that's how they sound, but what about actually using those conversations to boost your language skills? Conversations with both AIs will naturally introduce new vocabulary and just reinforce phrases that you already know. You can practice role plays like ordering coffee if you're a beginner, or even preparing for a job interview if you're more advanced. Both platforms are perfect for quick practice sessions. So even if you only have, say, 10 minutes during your lunch break or before work. And personally, I've been chatting to ChatGPT on my dog walks completely hands-free. We'll dig deeper into their unique features next, but based purely on voice quality, ChatGPT just about takes the first round. But now things start to get really interesting. Let's look at how each platform's unique features are revolutionizing language learning.
Muy bien, mola. Pues después de eso tengo que editar este vídeo que me cuesta un poco, pero es parte de mi trabajo. ¿Y tú qué te ha ido?
Pues yo he estado trabajando en un par de proyectos, nada del otro mundo.
Sí, ¿y cuáles son los proyectos?
Bueno, uno de ellos tiene que ver con crear nuevo contenido para el canal de YouTube y el otro es un proyectito personal de escritura que tengo por ahí.
So when I first tried this with Langua, The user experience blew me away. But full disclosure, there were some bugs with Langua early on, which is why I held off making the video until now. But honestly, with all the updates, it's now very, very impressive. It's important to point out though that this isn't about replacing human conversation. Nothing beats chatting with a real person. But think about flashcards. Nobody complains they're not human enough because they're just a useful tool. AI is similar. It's a tool that, when used right, can completely transform how you learn languages. The differences between Langua and ChatGPT are significant though, especially when it comes to usability. Both platforms can remember previous conversations and adjust their responses to match your skill level, but here the key difference lies in how you interact with them. ChatGPT relies heavily on prompts, so these are specific instructions that you type or speak to guide its responses. When you get the prompt right, it is really powerful, like asking it to speak at a certain difficulty about a topic you love. For example, I'm around a high beginner, low intermediate level of French. Speak to me at a B1 level about the best places to visit in France. But prompting can quickly become tedious if you need to constantly give it extra instructions to get the experience that you want. Langua, on the other hand, simplifies this by offering built-in features. So instead of having to type in detailed prompts, you can simply just click on what you want. So like difficulty level, you can just adjust it in the settings and not have to keep reminding it. And anything you don't understand, literally one click and it will translate it for you. You can then add these words to your vocab for review or to use them in future chats. Currently, they don't have hands-free speech, which I think is a pain, but I do know it's coming soon. Two features that I particularly love are the instant corrections on what you've said, and then the suggestions on alternative, more natural ways to phrase your sentences. The second feature is especially helpful because it helps you break out of the habit of saying the same phrases again and again. Technically, ChatGPT can also correct your mistakes and suggest alternatives in conversation, but in practice, I found it often forgets, or I'm too focused on the conversation to fully notice them. With Langua though, I can finish chatting and then go back and review the corrections in my own time, making it easier to absorb when giving it my full attention. But aside from conversation practice, Langua has a whole host of features that ChatGPT just doesn't offer. For example, you can import context and view it in Langua and then easily add those words to your vocab list. And then you can then either review them on flashcards or, even better, ask the AI to naturally incorporate those words during your conversations. This makes it simple to actively practice and move new vocabulary from passive recognition to then active use. And honestly, for features and user experience, Langua absolutely blows ChatGPT out of the water here. I do know it's no surprise though, as that's what it's designed for. One thing I will add here, the features on both of these platforms are being updated all the time. There are big name platforms in the language learning space that still have the same problems that people were complaining about on Reddit threads from 10 years ago. Seriously, where does all that subscription money go? Anyway, rant over. Let's now compare another practical way to integrate these AIs into your language learning.
Quiero conocer un poco más sobre cuáles tus pensamientos en la mejor forma de aprender un idioma para alcanzar un nivel pues intermedio y también un nivel alto. ¿Qué dirías?
Pues creo que lo que estás haciendo ya es bastante acertado. Para llegar a fuera intermedio, la clave es exponerte mucho al idioma real. Podcasts, series, conversaciones como esta.
Sometimes, in learning a language, you might have a question about a sentence structure, grammar, or even just a tricky word. At moments like these, you just want a tool that quickly clears things up so you can go back to enjoying content or your conversations. Which tool then is better when you need clear explanations? Well, let's imagine you're confused by something in the language you're learning. For example, why Spanish doesn't need to use as many pronouns like I or you or they as English does. If you're curious, it's partly because Spanish changes word endings depending on who is doing what action. Both ChatGPT and Langua can answer grammar questions, translate words, and even let you practice new sentence structures in conversation. I do find ChatGPT tends to have more in-depth explanations of grammar if that is what you are after. For both though, you can just ask more questions and push it more if you need to clarify anything. But while both tools can explain grammar rules, personally, I prefer how Langua corrects my mistakes directly. That way, I can just notice patterns naturally instead of trying to memorize rules. Ultimately, it does come down to personal preference though, but I think Langua takes this one for me. 1 point to Gryffindor. However, if your goal is creating worksheets or short stories tailored specifically to your level, ChatGPT is absolutely incredible at that. Knowing these strengths, let's now dive into a powerful process that has become central to my language learning.
Todavía está en una fase bastante inicial, pero sí que tengo una idea general de la trama. Es básicamente sobre un personaje que va aprendiendo diferentes idiomas y a la vez va descubriendo distintas culturas y conociéndose mejor a sí mismo. Así que cualquier idea o sugerencia es bienvenida.
For me, this method is the blend of old school charm and modern tech. But don't worry, obviously you can do it completely digitally if pen and paper aren't your thing. I recently used this exact approach to prepare for a trip to Spain and it worked brilliantly. And if you saw last week's video, I will share some extra steps that I've added. So I kept the steps straightforward, first focusing specifically on words and phrases around food and drink that hadn't come up in content I'd been using before. So originally my process was simple. I'd jot down useful phrases in a small notebook, record myself saying them into my phone, and then practice by speaking aloud using the notebook as a prompt. But now, with AI, I've taken it up a notch. Using Langua, I can chat with it and instantly receive feedback on common mistakes or get suggestions for more natural phrasing. I can then add that into the same process. So this way I'm constantly refining my language skills and building my confidence. So you can easily do this too. Start writing down key expressions that you want to master. So you can find them in content you're enjoying or just ask AI for them. Record yourself saying them into your phone and then listen throughout the day. Then try using them talking to Langua, incorporating the feedback into your notebook and your recordings to quickly improve. Honestly, give it a go. I think you'll be amazed at how effective this simple approach can be. With ChatGPT, you can do this, but you would have to go back and copy and paste the text from what you had said and then ask it for feedback, which I just think is just not as smooth. Because of that, I'm going to have to give the final bonus point to Langua. So if you want to speak a language better, check out the links for both in the description. Now, I've got a question for you. How do you think you would survive if you had to learn a language without using any technology? Well, check out this video here to see what happened to me when I tried exactly that.